From my experience, while many young men and ladies embark on the journey, only few eventually make it to Europe, as many usually die in the desert. In my crude estimation, for every 100 youth who left Nigeria at that period, about 9 will make it to Europe. But from what I hear these days, out of 100, perhaps only 1 person will succeed. A great majority are usually stranded along the way, doing menial jobs, akin to slavery, if they are men, while most of the men go into prostitution. End of the story. The account I just rendered is that of my younger brother, of the same father and mother. At a point in his life, when there were even more opportunities than we have today, he concluded that he had no future in our country, but he chose the wrong option. Fortunately, his story ended well after wasting almost 4 years, and my wife played a critical role in that, but not everybody is lucky. Today, so many young Nigerians are traveling to Europe and other parts of the world through desperate and deadly means. A few of them make it to Europe, where they realize that the streets are not paved with gold, while a great majority of them perish on the way. But we should not deny that we have created the condition by which they conclude that if they stay here, they die. Just recently, a 28-year-old Nigerian lady took to her Twitter page to share how she graduated with a first-class degree, after which she added a master's, yet has been searching for jobs now for 7 years. Her story is similar to that of over 1.9 million Nigerian graduates. It leads to the labor market every year. Not only are there no meaningful jobs, there are few economic opportunities or potentials for many of them. What this means is that yearly, we push hundreds of thousands of young Nigerians to the labor market without hope or direction. If we stay here, we die. This is a desperate conclusion for many. When jobs are desperate to come by, where all the sources of financial sustenance shrivel, and when hope seems to fade about when the next meal will come from. But it will also be a positive call to action. Therefore, I have a message for our young men and women. To make a decision not to stay here doesn't necessarily mean to change geographic location. What I'm talking about is that stubborn refusal to allow certain things to remain the same. On my flight from Abuja this morning, I was seated beside the president of Dominion Chapel International Churches, Bishop John Praise Dane. In the early 90s, I used to attend his church, so I introduced myself. I also shared with him my thoughts on the story of the siege on Samaria and the role of the lepers, which he took the trouble to further expand for me. He said the lepers were risk takers who refused to be hindered by their circumstance. Confronted with what looked like the devil's alternatives, they reasoned that since death looked inevitable, it was important not just to die idle. They would rather die in productive activity. That is a message for many of our young people. If we stay here, we die, should spur us into action. Unfortunately, a vast majority of our youth have become too unserious or risk-averse to venture into what could take them off the poverty line. Many are still waiting for corporate jobs from government and private sector, where there are huge opportunities around them to explore. We must look into ways to encourage our people to start working with their hands while waiting for their dream jobs, if there is anything like that. The solution to the challenge of joblessness lies in skills acquisition and the readiness to seek out or create new opportunities. The get-rich mentality must be dispensed with, while we urge the government to create an enabling environment. There are examples of young men and women who seize opportunity around them. Take the examples of We Cyclers, a Lagos-based waste recycling service founded in 2013 by Ms. Bilkis Adeniyi Abiola. Bilkis holds an MBA from Sloan School of Management at MIT, an MA in Computer Science from Vanderbilt University, and a BSc in Computer Science from Fisk University. But it is not all those degrees that define her, but the common sense that made her to see a problem and think for a solution that created serious business. Our venture, We Cyclers, has provided jobs for low-income community dwellers in and around Lagos, while addressing the challenge of millions of residents who are in need of trash collection in Nigeria's mega city. Bilkis is one of several stories of those who refuse to stay and die. Another Nigerian in that class is Shewoni Bide, who clocked 30 last month. He left his banking job to start what has become one of the leading civic innovations in Nigeria called Budge IT, after seeing the gap in the area of transparency and accountability. Budge IT does well in breaking down information into simple graphics that citizens, irrespective of literacy level, can connect with. It began as a civic startup and has transformed as the hub, using smart infographics to interpret data to citizens. His team is also in the forefront, ensuring that Nigeria becomes a member of the Open Government Partnership, a community of countries committed to specific plans relating to transparency. There are also many young Nigerians, including those from well-heeled families, Awon Babalowos and the Skelewus of this world, who are doing great in the entertainment sector, are putting our country on the map in a positive way. An indication that members of the generation coming after us are already getting the message that the world around us has changed and people can make something of their lives, add value to the society, and find fulfillment in taking the unusual road. In the emerging Nigeria, we must take the path of honor in putting our hands to work with passion and results-oriented mindsets. Pastor Koju, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I said from the beginning that I'm neither here today to preach nor to wail. My intention is to provoke a conversation that will be robust, constructive, and thought-provoking about the future of our country, and to challenge our young men and women that they cannot afford to stand still or be locked into old patterns and habits. We all know our problems. What remains is constructing a response that helps to address them. And if we don't do that quickly, we run the risk of waiting too long and falling too far behind to catch up. If we stay here, we die. It's an agonizing refrain, but there is a predictable way of reading that submission, and that is checking out. While that might appear alluring, it is not risk-free. Yet there is another way of reading that refrain, the non-conventional, unusual but positive way, which can be applied not just to job seekers, but also to our country, our leaders, and all of us. It is not risk-free either, as there is no predetermined outcome. It is a rejection of the status quo, an attempt to find a creative way out of what looks like a hopeless situation. But even with the risk involved, there's a higher chance of success and at least a preclusion of dying miserably in the desert or becoming fodder for fishes. It is the narrow path, the road least taken, but it is more dignifying and potentially more rewarding. Therefore, as it is for individuals, so it is for nations. For us as Nigerians, if we stay here, we die, means recognizing that our hopes and for the future depends on the empowerment of our young people. If we stay here, we die, means recognizing that change doesn't come on its own. It takes planning. It takes making the requisite sacrifices. If we stay here, we die, means a resolve by those saddled with critical responsibilities that henceforth they will serve with honor and integrity. If we stay here, we die, means under-promising and over-delivering on substance. If we stay here, we die, means declining faith that our institutions are there to serve the people and we will make them work. Pastor Koju, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the bottom line is that if we have for decades failed to take our opportunities, we have come to that critical point where, as a nation, the outcry of genuine patriots should be, if we stay here, we die. I will skip some things so that I can round up. Ladies and gentlemen, before I take my seat, let me remind all of us that if we stay here, we die, is also something that we should internalize. It means a new hunger to make a difference and to help people who deserve help so that they, in turn, can take advantage of new opportunities and contribute to a more diverse, sustainable, and equitable society. And that takes me to the story of a young girl who was walking with her parents along a beach upon which thousands of fish had been washed up after a terrible storm. When she came to each fish, the girl would pick it up and throw it back into the ocean. Her parents and all the people watched her with amusement. She had been doing this for some time when a man approached her and said, "Little girl, why are you doing this? Look at this beach. You cannot save all these fishes. What you are doing won't make a difference." For a while, the girl kept quiet, thoroughly deflated. But in her innocence, after a few moments, she bent down, picked up another fish, and hauled it as far as she could into the ocean. Then she looked up at the man with a smile of satisfaction and said, "Well, I make a difference to that one." Fortunately, we do have such people in our country, but we do not have enough of them. I am sure many of us must have read about a certain woman called Adeniyi Yusuf, one of the pilgrims who lost their lives in this year's Hajj tragedy. I am also sure if I ask who she was, many will simply say she was the first female editor from the north. That description does a lot of disservice to the woman. She was more than that. An anti-Bilkisu, as some of us called her, our country lost a shining star who for more than 3 decades made immense contributions in several fields aside journalism. Fields like maternal health advocacy, interfaith dialogue, campaign for girl child education, and many more. She was a very dignified woman who loved her work and embraced everything she found worthy of engaging in with such passion, sincerity, and commitment. Without any doubt, her life had purpose, and she touched so many people positively until she died last week in Saudi Arabia. As I commiserate with her family and the families of other Nigerians who lost their lives in the Mina tragedy, the message for each one of us is to take whatever little space we have and begin to make a difference in our world. Remember, if we stay here, we die. Thank you for listening, and God bless Nigeria.